Greetings, travelers. My name is Nick Murphy.
And my name is Satchell Drakes.
And welcome to Cinephilia Anonymous. We're going to take you on an interstellar adventure through the darkest corners of your mind to unlock the hidden passion for cinema. It's so deep. It's so deep.
I know, man. Deep space.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of deep space, this week we'll be discussing Clueless.
Yeah, man.
It has a lot to do with deep space.
We're going there, man. The quintessential 90s high school teen movie.
Right. It really is. Like, it's so crazy how, like, perfect this movie is. And it's, like, released in the mid-90s, it just captured all of that.
From the soundtrack to the classifications to everything.
It's so good, man. It's so crazy. Like, was this like when you were in high school and stuff? Was this like a movie that people talked about?
This was like the reference for a lot. I feel like this kind of coined the whole. This created the canon for the. Though it existed before, it created the canon for like the dumb blonde and the jocks and the nerds and the whatever. Yeah. There were a lot of ones that kind of predated that. But was this the first of its kind? Like, Can't Hardly Wait was another big one.
Yeah,
that came out after, right?
I think that came out after. That one was really good too. That was very much like about the experience.
Yeah.
You're right. This one definitely had like the classification and like the this is this group of people and this is this group of people, and it was it definitely like had that kind of feeling to it. But you know what was really nice? Like I just like forgot about like rewatching it. Like you're right. Like everybody was just like, oh yeah, she's just like a dumb blonde, right?
Yeah.
But then like rewatching it, I was just like, she is a dumb blonde, but she's like super likable. You know what I mean? Not to say that like blonde people aren't likable,
right? Yeah,
but just like it just wasn't like a detriment. She was like super smart. You know, she like her vocabulary was out of control. Like she knew how to like run the game on people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It was kind of nuts. Like it was,
and she wasn't like. You know, like she was conservative in her own right. Like she was a virgin. You know what I mean? Like she was saving herself for the right person. She definitely, you know, wasn't. Yeah, there was something very likable about her personality.
Yeah, and she took it like seriously. Like, she took like, you know, she was like, oh my god, I got a bad grade in school, but she took it seriously and was just like there's the scene where like her dad is like this like high powered attorney, and like he has she like brings home her report card and she's like, this is like a first offer and you told me never to accept the first offer.
Yeah,
so she like
that was great.
Renegotiates her grades, dude. It's crazy.
That was so great.
So let me like run down some basic facts about the movie. So it was directed by Amy Heckerling, who also directed Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which is like another quintessential kind of like high school movie.
Yeah.
So, you know, a decade later she's doing this kind of movie, or I guess I don't know when Fast Times came out. Did it come out? I feel like it came out in the 80s, but I don't.
Yeah, me too.
Maybe it came out in 1982. Yeah, so like 13 years later, she's like still doing that kind of stuff. That's cool.
Zone, yeah.
It stars Alicia Silverstone, Stacey Dash, Brittany Murphy, Paul Rudd, Donald Faison, and Breckin Meyer, which is pretty cool to see him in that. It was released in July 19th, 1995, and which I didn't know this part at all, but it is loosely based on Emma by Jane Austen.
Huh.
So it follows like this plot line of like this Jane Austen story, and it's just kind of like updated and like revamped, which I had no idea, which I thought
interesting.
Found fascinating.
I'd like to see the original and see just how much I guess creative freedom they took with it.
Yeah, like reading a little bit about it, it seemed like it was just kind of like the characters and the plot. So like there's a character who's Emma, who's like Alicia Silverstone, who like plays this matchmaker person and winds up finding her right person.
Yeah.
But I don't know what like did this like stand out to you? Like I kind of felt like it was. Most movies are like three plots, you know, there's like that 3-act structure. So it's just like set up, something happens, and then resolution.
Mm-hmm.
But like this movie felt like 3 smaller movies. I don't know if you felt like that when you were watching it. Like I felt like
sort of like the first part. Let's see if we're on the same page. Like
yeah,
the first part was Alicia Silverstone slowly learning that she was actually in love with Paul Rudd, and then the second part is like the coming of age of all the people that she's trying to like do a makeover for, maybe.
Yeah. Like I felt like that. Like
it did feel like separate tracks in a kind of way.
Yeah. Like I feel like it starts off. It's just like she's trying to get her two teachers together so she can get better grades, and like that alone would be like a plot for a movie,
right?
You know. And then it's like, oh, the ugly duckling at school. Let's give her the makeover and turn her into like that's almost like she's all that.
Yeah,
you know, like where
dude, you're right. This movie's so multidimensional. Oh,
it's kind of crazy.
I did not think that in this podcast we would be saying that.
I mean, Clueless. It's so smart, and I think that's what's really interesting about it. Like, it's called Clueless, but like the characters are incredibly smart. Like Donald Faison, who plays Murray in the movie, you know, he keeps going up to his girlfriend Dion, and he keeps being like, woman, let me get this. And she keeps being like, I told you not to call me a woman. And then he has that whole part where he's like, although it may have the affectation of you know, street slang, but he said this really smart thing. And it's just like,
dude, I know. There's this other part where Dion says this, like they're supposed to be in the beginning. It paints them all ditzy, and then they're talking about Claire's brother, and like, you know, how he's in college or whatever, and you know how he sort of has that little like debate with his girlfriend or this girl that he really digs about Shakespeare and stuff. She's just like, wow, he seems really hopped up on himself, and then she says, is he in some sort of post-adolescent idealist phase? And I'm like, if these girls are ditzy, they're really like socially adept. It's not even the fact that they're using big words, but the fact that that high schoolers are able to peer into like the phases of college students and try to pinpoint where they're at. Like, I was like, I would hang with these people. Like,
it's really smart. And like even Cher makes these like nicknames for people a couple times, and like the one I like maybe like I was like, oh my god, that's like the funniest thing I've ever heard is she calls the red-haired girl, like she sees the red-haired girl dancing with like the dude that she's supposed to set Ty up with. Right.
Oh, at the party, yeah. And she's like, oh, she's Amber. A Monet. And Ty is like, what's that? And she's like, you know, it's like a Monet painting. From far away, it looks great, but then up close, it's a hot mess. I was like, that's really smart. Like, to use like that kind of I know, that's someone who's actually studying and paying attention, like,
right? And even if like, let's say that she, that's just like a term that exists in that world, like for the fact that somebody like A, uses that, and B, like she knows enough to explain why it's called that, like, you know, she definitely knows her stuff, man. So she kind of she falls into that like ditzy blonde, and everybody dismisses her as a ditzy blonde, like in the movie too, but time and time again she proves that she's like not that she's actually like the smartest person in the room in like her own weird way. Like her debates that she has in the debate class are like surprisingly really good analogies for things that are happening. She is trying to understand this world, but like puts it in her own terms so she can understand it, and then like simplifies it and makes it like that much better, I guess. It's really crazy.
I'd almost argue to say that like she's a little bit better or more interesting than an intellectual type, because she learns all these things and then she contextualizes them into something more like palatable for like a high school student to understand, like for the debate class or whatever, like in everyday slang and stuff. It's like, it's cool.
Yeah, it's really smart, and I feel like that like that theme is running throughout the movie, not just through like the characters and how they act and stuff like that. There's even like this they kind of treat like older people as these like I don't know. She's always giving Paul Rudd, like her older stepbrother, like a hard time about like all this stuff, but she, you know, secretly loves him and stuff. And then like even the teacher, she kind of like dismisses them, but like treats them like on equal footing. Like she doesn't treat them like you know, everybody's an adult in the movie, and they all treat each other as such. But I just found it really interesting that like that's like a running theme that like there's a part where like the stoner guy, I think his name is Travis. In the movie,
his name is Travis.
He has this like realization in class, where he's just like, you know, I'm just thinking about the way I give my mother a hard time about the Rolling Stones,
right?
The way that my kids are going to feel about Nine Inch Nails.
Like, that was so good.
Like how appropriate 20 years later that like
I know.
that's like what it is. And like for the movie to be self-aware of that at the time, and then, you know, I guess that's just like a generational thing that every generation goes through that.
Yeah, for him to be aware that generations like operate in cycles like that is so cool.
It's so nuts.
It's
man.
almost like the junk film, quote unquote, like, because I don't even consider Clueless this, but if you were to liken Clueless to like a modern day, like its modern day equivalent would be, I don't know. All I know is that like high school musicals, I mean not high school musicals, high school films like today have so much less substance than that.
Yeah, I don't know if I was trying to think. I was actually thinking about that. I was talking with my wife Rebecca about it. Like, I don't know that I can name like a good high school movie that came out in like the past like 10 years. Like, and I don't know if that's just because
Never Back Down.
older.
That's probably the most recent and like relevant one. It's
really? I don't think I've ever seen it.
It's pretty much a high school movie in disguise. It's this guy, because you know like UFC became. It's around when UFC was really blowing up. Like. It's like this guy, he, in his last high school, his dad died, someone made fun of him, he went crazy and like beat up a kid really well or whatever, and it went viral on the internet, so he moved...
Beat him up really well. I like the way you put it.
Yeah. And like it went, because it's a millennial film, like it went viral on the internet, and like... Everyone's like recording on their cell phone, so like all the shots are like, "Hey, they're recording this on their cell phones, guys," and like showing like information moves fast or whatever. And he like moves to this new high school, and anyway, it's a trick. It's not about MMA. It's a high school film with jocks or whatever. But
that's kind of cool.
But it has less. It is cool. It's a guilty pleasure for me. I very much enjoy watching it. But even then, I'd say that there's less moments where I'm like, "Huh."
Yeah,
like with Clueless.
It's like Flashdance with MMA fighters, basically.
There you go. Yeah,
they're all the same story, dude. It's
right. There's
it's
the Rocky montage,
faces.
and then the best. And then,
it's the Hero of a Thousand Faces of high school movies. It's just they're all the same movie. They're just told different ways and stuff. But no, I like rewatching this movie. Like I forgot how good it was. Like, not to say that I ever thought that it wasn't a good movie. Like I guess I just never appreciated like. I couldn't like read between the lines. I just saw it for like as like superficial as it is. Just like, oh, it's just a dumb high school movie about, you know, girls in high school, right? But it's like it's not like that. Like oh, you know what? Like I guess Mean Girls is like a really good high school movie that's come out in like the past decade or so. You know,
right? Yeah.
We're like on the same thing. Like it could just be like, oh, it's just like about bitchy high school girls, but it's, you know, it's dissecting that. And I think Clueless does that too. It like dissects the like relationships that you have in high school, where you have like a best friend and a boyfriend and a guy you like, but then, you know, I found it really interesting that Cher was just like, she didn't want to like be around high school people, and she knew it, but she knew them all so well. Like she specifically says like, I don't date high school guys, but then like starts dating this guy who's like intellectually like way older than she is, you know. And there's all these calls to like sort of like a hierarchy, like a caste system, like among the students. And then when oh my gosh, I forgot her name. Who initially has a crush on Travis? Ty, Brittany. Yeah,
Ty. Right, Ty. I knew it was some kind of weird name. Yeah, Ty has a. I love how they painted her as an East Coaster. It was so.
Oh my god, her accent. You're a virgin who can't drive.
It was so like anyway. Well, I guess everyone was a caricature, right? Like everyone was a very exaggerated form of themselves. But how at first it's like taboo, and then at the end of it all, like even Cher kind of realizes like, well, it's, I don't know, love is love in a kind of way. Yeah,
he's a good guy. Like everyone, you're right. Like they dismissed him because of like what like social clique or like you said caste that he was in. Like and at the end of the day, and like what I think people in high school don't realize, like once you're done with high school, like none of that matters anymore. You just
you go to college and it's just this big melting pot. You can and you can be whoever you want to be, even if there is a caste system. Like
right, exactly. And you like it just doesn't matter. Like it's so like high school is such this microcosm, and like this film like kind of like highlights that, but then like once you kind of dissect that and get past that, you're just like, well, it doesn't really matter. You just kind of, it's just easier to fall into like a slot rather than kind of stand out in high school.
Yeah. What was high school like for you? Like how much of this stuff like kind of rang true or?
I mean, like the different like groups always kind of rings true. Like I don't think I was like super nerdy in high school or like, a goth or a punk or like a preppy kid or like or a jock or anything. Right. I felt like I had like my group of friends and that's who we were. I mean, maybe we were one of those groups, but we just didn't have like a cool name or anything like that.
Yeah.
But like, I like knew popular people. I knew like all these different people. I was just tried to like be nice to everybody, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, high school was a pretty pleasurable experience for me. I didn't really have like...
Yeah, me too. I didn't have there's some people who like want to forget about it or they're like, man, I love college better. For me, I'm like, I loved high school and I loved college. They were both dope. I would have done both of them for 8 years.
I would have kept going with it. Like I was never the kind of person like, oh, high school is the best years of my life. I was like, nah, it's pretty enjoyable, but
here's nice.
Last year was nice, and this year's pretty great too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so hard because like whenever they portray like high school in movies, it's always like a West Coast LA high school where they're like, oh, we got to walk across the quad. And for us, it's like, there's no open space. It's just all building.
Yeah.
From class
I never
to
noticed
class.
that. Yeah, it's like there is no outdoors unless it's. Yeah, there is no outdoors.
Yeah.
Unless it's the baseball field. Yeah. That's about it.
Yeah, right. Nobody's like playing frisbee across, this thing. They're just always like college campuses, it looks like. And stuff.
Right, yeah.
Well, why don't we take like a short break and then we'll come back and talk about more stuff.
Break time.